If you don't know, I built a whole redstone escape room in Minecraft, and it is located right here on my server, Minecraft server with my friends. And because it's on a server, that means that more than one people play it. And since I constructed it several months ago, I've always wanted to install a timer inside that automatically tracks how long people are in the escape room, how long it takes them to solve the puzzle. So today, I want to make a redstone timer to implement into my escape room. But it won't just be any redstone timer. It won't just be measuring game ticks. It won't be measuring items moved from one hopper to another. It'll be measuring actual real-life seconds. So that'll be today's challenge. Make a redstone timer that measures actual seconds. All right, so this is going to be the heartbeat of our timer, I think. This is where we're going to start, at least. This is an etho hopper clock. If you've never seen one before, essentially items are moving back and forth in these hoppers. The comparators are allowing the redstone block to travel from one side to the other, allowing all the items to move back and forth before it switches over. Pretty simple stuff. And then the repeaters are keeping the line right here, this redstone line, powered until it moves, where it temporarily deactivates for a split second while the redstone block is in transit to the other side. So, and then that is detected by this observer. You just saw it quickly happen there. It's almost hard to see because it's so fast, but the observer detects the change, and this is going to be our timer. This is going to be the heartbeat of our timer. So the goal is to make this exactly 1 second at a time. Okay, so I was just looking at a little bit of a math here, and if you didn't already know, the Minecraft game uses a time measurement called ticks. There's two kinds of ticks. There's redstone ticks and there's game ticks. For our purposes, we'll just be looking at redstone ticks, which just so happen to be 1/10 of a second. So if we want to measure the amount of seconds, we're going to need 10 redstone ticks. I found this tool on the wiki. Let's see, where did it go? Right here. This on the Minecraft.wiki, on the tick page, there's a calculator for your different units. So obviously we have 10 redstone ticks equals 1 second. So back to our game. Hoppers take 4 ticks to move one item. Obviously 10 ticks isn't divisible by 4. So I was thinking that we could shoot for 40 ticks, which would be 10 items, and send 4 pulses for every item. So that would make up for the other seconds that had elapsed since the last pulse. So I was mocking up an idea here. So this is all of this is just to make sure that we get 4 ticks. So each observer sends 1 tick quickly after another, and then they send items into the hopper chain, and they collect here in this chest. And this is just extra storage. So if we start it up, we got to replace these blocks here. So we've got 2 ticks so far. That's 8. Oh, should be. Yeah, okay, there's 16. It's caught up now. 22. Should be 26, 28, 32. Wait a minute. There's something happening that I need to figure out. I think I fixed it. Well, I think there were some bug powering issues, so I just send the signal through the block into the droppers here, and that seems to have fixed it. So now every pulse we get 4 items in here in this chest. So now it's time to test to whether this is actually accurate. Now that we have a way to send 4 pulses, we gotta see if this is actually recording seconds. And I figured I could just bring up my clock here like this. It's already been going. I forgot to turn it off. Okay, this is going to be kind of rough because I Can't turn them on at the same time, but we can kind of get a general idea of... I might put a clock on editing, but I don't know how to do that. All right. Let's see if we can kind of get this going. 1. Oh, I missed. This is going to be like 1 second behind. Oh, it's way too fast. 8. 12. 16. Should be about 12 now. And that should be 16. Okay. 20. Okay, let's see. 28. It seems like it's just 4 seconds ahead. 32, there's 32. Okay, so it seems like it's about only 4 seconds ahead. So maybe there was Oh, I see. So when I flick the lever, it gives an initial pulse into the system. So we need a way to start the timer without putting an initial pulse through. Okay, I think I came up with a pretty simple solution here. I'm just powering, instead of powering this block here, just powering this redstone line so it doesn't change as the block goes back and forth. Okay, so now for another test. How am I going to do this? Let's do this first. Ready, go. Okay, that should be pretty close. Alright, 4 seconds on the timer. 8 seconds in 11. Okay, or seem to be a bit ahead in Minecraft. But are we consistently ahead? Will real life catch up? It doesn't seem like it. Oh, maybe redstone 4 ahead right now. 4 ahead again. Okay, I think I even pushed the timer first and it was still behind. So I think somehow we're still getting a detection. Wait a minute. Okay, I'm going to mess around with it some more and see what I can find out. Okay, so I've gotten to the point where I don't think that I'm going to get a timer that is exactly perfect with every single person who runs through it. But I do think I've created something that measures seconds accurately over time, right? So whether or not it spits out a few extra seconds at the end or the beginning, it's going to be consistent because it's redstone, right? So instead of having the lever here, blocking this observer from noticing anything, I've actually moved it over here, locking both of the items in both of the hoppers. I guess not both of the items, all of the items in both of the hoppers from moving at all. So the problem we had before when we would lock this one is that all the items would move to 1, stay there until you flipped it on, and then that would send a initial 4-second equivalent into the system. So you'd start with 4 extra seconds. This one hopefully will just lock it wherever it's at. And like I said, it'll just be consistent player to player. So I think this is the design we're going to go with. Kind of bulky. But that's kind of how my redstone goes. It makes sense to me, so there's not really any need to try and unnecessarily slim it down. But now let's go move over to the server and build it on there. Okay, so we're here on the server. I'm just thinking through what I can do to implement that timer that we came up with just barely. I'm thinking that we can utilize the system that I already have built in this drop shaft. So the player will do this maze up here in the building, and then they drop down to the main room down here. I thought about putting some sort of redstone up here so it counts the time in this portion, but there's just no room up there. So I'm going to have to build it underground here. I have this little system that closes up the ceiling when you drop through, so you can't see back up into the pyramid. And I could just utilize this. It's just a string and observer. It's super dark. I don't think you can see it, but it's just a string and observer. When player drops through, it detects, opens it up real quick, and then allows the player to drop through and closes it back up. So I think I'll just use that to start, like for the starting pulse, and then to exit, to stop the timer, I'll just use the exit pressure plates, which also happen to reset the whole room. So a lot of things are already in place for this. I just got to build the timer. So let me get started on that. Okay, so it's all built now. I got the timer installed. Everything we did on the Redstone test world is now here. Here, I installed a Redstone texture pack, but it's not been updated, so that's why these look like naked. This is just to help me visualize some things. So, got it all installed, and while I was building this, I was thinking of how I'm going to work out other problems. Like, do I really want the user, the player, to see their score in seconds? Or do I want somehow to convert the seconds to minutes and the minutes to hours if needs be? And I was thinking, how in the world am I going to do that if I want to? Because I don't want for the player to sit there and be like, oh, I have to pull out my calculator and see how many minutes this is. I want it to be an all-inclusive Redstone contraption. So I had a couple ideas. First off, I could have measured the container, like if I store all of our seconds in a chest, for example, I can measure it. But as you can see here, there isn't a spot for 60, which would be when I'd want to drain the seconds and add a minute. So in a chest or a hopper, there's no 60 items for a certain signal strength, right? So we couldn't do like an item sorter situation where you get a certain signal strength and then that, activates the system, empties out the seconds, adds 1 minute, sends the seconds back to the counter. Then I thought maybe we could keep the comparator and get an observer and somehow observe the amount of seconds that are traveling through. So like say this was a big long hopper chain that, this is going down to wherever the seconds are going to be displayed. Let me get some examples here. So let's say that we still had, this comparator reading when items travel through, and then we have an observer watching the comparator. But the trouble with this one is when we send items through, let's send 4 examples. So like a set of 4 will come through. This actually isn't going to work because I have to do them separately. And I haven't filled these up yet, so let's just do that real quick. We just need more than 4 in each of them. Okay, and then we start it up. We actually get 5 redstone pulses for... Oh. Never mind. So I guess it's too fast. On the Redstone test world, you'd get 5 observer pulses for each 4 seconds that pass through, or 4 items that pass through representing seconds. But on the server, apparently, it's only 2. So these are my 2 solutions that I've come up with so far that have gone nowhere. So it's leaving me wonder, do I actually want to do hours and minutes? Or is it impossible with this current setup? But for now, I'm going to get it set up where dropping through the drop shaft will start it, and walking over the pressure plates will end it. Okay, so I got the player detection system in. So just real quick, when the player drops down into the main room, the string observer setup will detect it, sending a signal to this monostable circuit. The item is held here and moves here when someone is playing the room, and that allows me to prevent spam clicks on the way out. No one's going to click the string more than once, but they might run over the pressure plate more than once. It's a possibility. I just want to prevent and make sure it's not broken or anything. So that's what this prevents. I was just going to do a copper bulb, but then you could just sit there and jump on the pressure plate and switch it and mess it all up. So, like I said, the item sits in here when the room is not in use, but when someone is playing the room, it moves here, allowing this comparator to turn off and this repeater to turn off, activating the timer, right? Turning everything off and allowing the block to move back and forth and sending the items through. So moving on to the exit, we follow this line all the way to this torch tower, going down, and that just hooks up to our exit pressure plates right there. So I tested it, it all works, it's all good. So now I need to figure out a way to display the time to the player. So I have a couple options here. I've only thought of one option so far. Essentially, I could just put the items in a chest of how many seconds it took them, and then I'll have to rely on the player to push the button to reset it. That lends a couple of problems. If they forget to push the button, then the timer isn't reset, and then the next person who goes through gets the previous person's plus their score. So that wouldn't be very good. And also there was one other problem that it just left my mind. But so that's problem number one. Also, it's not very professional, I guess is the best word for it. Ideally, I display hours if necessary, and then minutes, and then seconds, right, in a row. But I have still yet to come up with a solution for this problem. I'll keep thinking about it. It's been a couple of real-life hours for me. I've basically finished the machine. There's only one more bug that I need to work out, but I'll talk about that later. I think when we left off last time, I didn't review the footage, but I think all we had was this little setup right here and then a little hopper line going, sticking out right probably at this point. So my original thought back in the last clip was to send the items over to the remote research station right there, one by one. And then I figured that's going to be way too slow, especially retrieving them in order to be reused. So I settled on using minecarts instead. So the minecarts will store the player's score or their time as the player is running through. And if the player wants to retrieve their score, then they can go push a button in the research center, and this minecart will travel along this rail, go, turn this corner instead of this one, and go down, and will be able to be viewed down there. Otherwise, when another person initiates a drop into the kind of the main room there, the minecarts will switch. This one will go up and be unloaded, not unlike this one is being unloaded right now. In fact, I'm timing how long it takes a full minecart to be unloaded, and right now we are at 18 minutes so far, so that's good to know. I want to pay attention to when that finishes up. So the only foreseeable bug that I predict happening is if 3 people want to play at the same time, because the first minecart might be really full, the second minecart might be not so full, and if a third person drops in the chute while the first one is still unloading, that could cause some problems with the minecarts wanting to unload at the exact same time. So in order to prevent that, I have an idea to put a sticky piston extended right here in the it's pretty dark, I don't know if you can see it. Okay, that's better. Okay, so my idea is to have a sticky piston holding chamber if both of the minecarts are busy, to extend and keep the player from dropping through all the way to the activation string observer setup. Because that could cause some problems, especially with their time. If both the minecarts are busy, they're not going to have a minecart to collect their time. And along with, there's nowhere to hold the second minecart. If it tries to unload while the first one's unloading, it's going to cause some problems. So now the question I have is, how in the world do I detect if both the minecarts are busy? So I'll check in again when I've come up with a solution to that problem. Until then, wish me luck. Okay, I actually think I came up with a solution. I've only tested it once, and it worked in my one test, so I'm hoping it will work indefinitely. So I am using this detector rail to detect when minecarts are being unloaded. And then I'm also taking a signal from our main monostable circuit here. And I'm just taking that signal up and over to lock this repeater if a signal tries to come through. So if someone's in the room, it's not going to do anything, right? Because it's locked. But if someone's out the room and it's still unloading, the signal's going to travel on through and up into the sticky piston, blocking the drop chute. So let's do a test on camera. Let me see if it'll work. I got a little bit set up. So player one just went. It took them 5 or so minutes. Pretty quick, to be honest. So let's simulate player two jumping in the room. Button right here. Player two just jumped in and started his game. And here's his counter going up. Player one's chest is starting to unload. And as you can see, it's going over the detector rail. But because someone is in the room, it is locked. This will also prevent people from... Oh, never mind. I was going to say this also prevents more than one person from dropping in at the same time, but it doesn't do that. I might have to deal with that later. But as you can see, repeater is locked from someone being in the room. So now let's... Player two just finished the room, and it's done. And he got a score of 56. It's pretty good, 56 seconds. But player one's is still going, right? So now this piston is extended. Oh, I need to extend this this a little bit. Repeat comparators. This needs to be a little bit longer. Yeah, there we go. So now it's extended until player one's minecart is done unloading. So I guess we didn't need this, really. We could have just had it. I guess we need a longer pulse extender. Yeah, we definitely do. We need more comparators in here. So I'll have to mess around with that, but anyway, I think we did it. Essentially, when minecarts are being unloaded, it locks the player from dropping down, right? But it only does it if someone is... You know what? I think this design has a few flaws. Let me look over it and see what I can come up with. I just extended... Oh, I'm backwards. I just extended this a little bit, moved this around here. It does work. And the reason is because it only unloads the player that has gone before you, right? So this was player 1's. It's now completely unloaded. This is player 2's. Player 3 can now drop in. The piston is allowing it to drop in. But I think I might get rid of this. Or no, sorry, this. But it would remain... This just keeps it consistent. So while someone's in the room, the door does remain open. Whereas if I were to get rid of this, it would close for as long as the previous player took, if that makes sense. Because it would close for as long as it took for the minecart to unload. Well, a little bit less time because it takes less time for the minecart to unload than to load. But anyway, yes, I think this system will work. And the reason why it works is because there is always a minecart in stasis, essentially, in holding, ready to be unloaded. So let me check this. If someone were to request this score down here, I still need to decorate this room down here. But if someone were to request it, let me see, it's down. I'll just go up this way. Okay, request. The minecart should come in just a minute. Okay, there it is. Score 56. That's great. Perfect. That's a great score. Took you 56 seconds to go through. Okay. So now, if player 3 were to drop in, let's see what would happen. So this minecart's going to be recalled. It's going to come back, and it's going to start to unload. Yeah, it's the same thing. It's either going to be held here, or it's going to be held over there, where people can reach it. It just takes some time to come back and start to unload. So I think that's the whole project finished. So a quick recap. We have our counter, which has 10 items, which is equivalent to 4 seconds. Every 4 seconds, we take 4 individual pulses, which is what these observers are doing, which sends 4 items into our... Oh, didn't mean to do that. Into our droppers, or out of our droppers into our minecart with chest. So the minecart with chest keeps track of the player's score in seconds. Now, if the player wants to review his score, he can go to the remote Arctic Research Center down here and pretend I just walked there on my outside. You know, this is the room that I've been in here before. Right, you just come down here and you can call it using this button. I should probably test what that would do if the game is currently being run. If someone tries to call their score, that would not be good. Yeah, I gotta fix that. Anyway, they could call their score. Okay, and then when they finish up, it switches back to the monostable circuit. This comparator reads true, powering all of these, locking the timer, locking the items where they were, and not allowing any items to move through from the droppers. Now, the reset system happens when another person drops through, and the previous person's score is either stored here or over in the remote research center, and it is recalled to the unloader system, which it goes up here. The minecart goes over there and rides over these minecarts these hoppers a bunch of times until it's empty. And when it's empty, it's permitted to go back and wait right here where this one is. So ideally, and one more failsafe, if a person wants to play while there's still a minecart being unloaded and there's not a minecart ready for them, the sticky piston will extend, not allowing them to enter the room until the minecart is ready. So that is the whole project, I think, from start to finish. Okay, I was just putting together the video and realized that I forgot two things that I wanted to include in this scorekeeper timer stopwatch thing. One of which is also my texture pack got fixed. So, well, my texture pack isn't even installed, but we updated to a new version, 1.21.3. So everything looks nice and new. My torches are no longer naked, so that's good. Anyway, one of which was, there's two things I wanted to add before we finish up. One of which is, I mentioned earlier about thinking this would keep players from dropping in one after another. If someone's running the game, you don't want a second player dropping in. So we're going to add another sticky piston up there just to close the drop from other people entering while someone else is doing the puzzle. And then the second thing is a bug where you can someone else can recall your current score while you're in playing the game. So I don't want people to be able to do that. If all these bugs are just if two people ever are here at the same time. So if someone's doing the escape room and someone's messing around at the remote research center and doesn't know what the button does, pushes the button, I don't want the minecart to go to and like mess up the score and stuff. But so I'll get started on that one first. All right, those two things were pretty simple. First of which is the cart request if someone is playing, which I just hooked up to. I actually hooked both of these circuits up to this. So of course this is the player detection on and off switch. Essentially, if the item's in here, that means no player is in. If the item moves over to here, that means a player is in. So we can use this comparator to detect whether or not a player is in the room. So I use this wire, take it down, and then under the ground, under here, and then lock this repeater with it, which is the line that goes back to the remote research center. And then I take the same line, go the other way, take it up to a sticky piston. So if it's active, this piston will extend, not allowing anyone else to drop through. Just a couple of safety measures in case two people are here at the same time. But anyway, let's get to some testing. Okay, I'm here in the remote center, dropping off all my stuff. Oh, except for my food. I can't remember my food. All right, let's go. I'll probably speed this up a little. All right, let's go see how I did. Okay. 4 minutes. 44 seconds. Nice. All right, we're wrapping up down here in this basement room. I just finished decorating. On one side we have a little bit of instructions telling the user, the player, the timer automatically tracks them from when they go in to when they drop out. Push the button on the floor to retrieve your time, and then post the time, if you're proud of it, on this wall for a chance to be an epic winner. Hopefully in the future we'll have some sort of prize or competition. And then here's just a tip to sort your stacks in 60 to easily calculate minutes. I also renamed the minecart with chest in order to reiterate that this is your runtime in actual seconds from when you drop in to when you walk out. It's just to the nearest fourth integer, so but I'll leave that detail out. Alright, well, thanks so much for watching. If you made it all the way through, thank you so much. Let me know in the comments if you'd like to see more videos like this. I'm more than happy to make them. This was a blast to make. There's definitely a lot more ideas where this is coming from. I've got a lot of big redstone plans. So just, yeah, write me a comment. Love to read it. And we'll catch you in the next one.